Well, it's great to have everybody out tonight. Thanks for coming to my town hall. Zachery Fuller, my pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I'm running for Griffin City Commission in District 5. I'm just going to talk about my background real quick, why I'm running, and then we'll open up the questions. I was born here in Spalding County. I grew up about halfway between Griffin and Rio Vaughn. Moved into Griffin proper when I was about 16. Got a job working as a DJ, doing like weddings, formal events, company parties, things like that, all around Spalding County and the surrounding area. Also got a regular job too, and I worked like that as a DJ and with a regular job all the way up until the pandemic hit, which at that point, when I was 19, I moved to Atlanta for a little bit, but when the pandemic hit, lost my job, and by the time we got around to August, lost my unemployment, moved back here to Griffin, and I've been working here ever since, going back on a job, it shutting down, back on unemployment, and I feel like a lot of people, whether it's in Griffin or just America in general, have been dealing with the same thing. Same thing, already struggling with jobs, having to work more than one job, and then the pandemic just kind of ruined that. But I've been politically active since I graduated. I graduated from Griffin High back in 2018. I was one of those people that when they brought the voter registration to my lunchroom, ran up there. I was so excited. And 2018, in the midterms, I was out there, voted for Stacey Abrams. Super excited to get involved. And I've been involved around here and all around the Atlanta metro area and the South and Pike County, all over the place, trying to get people out to vote, trying to convince them to vote, and push certain issues that are really important to me, like environmental protection, of course, and different justice, like fighting for like Black Lives Matter movement, and trying to make sure that we get racial justice here in Georgia specifically, but all across the country. And when I found out that no one was running against the incumbent in the district that I've been living in for so long, District 5, I knew I had to run because we need to push this city. We need to put working people on the Board of Commissioners. We need to make sure that people that work for a living and struggle, like a lot of people do in the city of Griffin. Our poverty rate is about 24%, and that, personally, I have not seen that reflected in the Board of Commissioners. And so I just want to run to bring awareness to certain issues, such as housing, such as decriminalizing marijuana, such as in protecting the environment, which is directly related to racial justice and improving housing because of developments, lower class developments you're going to get less care into and more industrial area around it when that doesn't have to be the case. So all these things are interconnected, and I want to make sure that whenever there's a decision made on the board, that it is looked at from different perspectives, and we make sure we're not just working for profits, but we're working for the people. All right, so does anyone have any questions they would like to ask?
Zachery, you talked about improving housing. What other areas you think will be impacted positively if we improve housing here in Griffin and in Spalding County?
Well, every area is impacted by housing because of how important it is to people to have houses. And here in Spalding County, only about 30% of people own their own house. And that's a problem because with 60% of people renting, you have people aren't here. They don't have their own property. They don't feel like they're here. They don't have, like, land is so valuable to people. And we don't have people that properly live here. You have a bunch of people renting, which just takes the money you make from your job, and you don't get that return. You're just living in that house. You don't get the return of how you work when you work here. And a lot of people don't even work here because there aren't very there aren't that many good jobs here when there used to be. Griffin used to be a place where you had the mills, and those were very good paying jobs for people here. And then when that moved out, we have not had that bubble filled, that void filled with something else. And a lot of people in general have low-wage jobs, they have struggle unionizing, or there's no effort at all or no organizing that's able to help them get better wages, or they don't know how to get better jobs or don't have the opportunity. And one reason is they're struggling to keep their house. And recently in Griffin, house prices have been going up, and that includes rent prices. And that's partly because of inflation, partly because of the housing market, but also it's because of new developments that have been coming in, and they're raising house prices without the back end being looked after. Like, these new developments are great, and we want to keep new developments coming in, but without affordable housing being put in, you're going to have people displaced. And we've been seeing that, especially in the pandemic. We've seen an increase of people moving out of Spalding County or people losing their house entirely. Our houseless population has gone up recently, and we don't have the support system in place to protect them. And so one thing is I want to make sure that we have those systems. So if someone was without a house, they can still get food, shelter, and hopefully get to a place where they can get housing. But also we want to bring affordable housing in so that more people could either choose to move here, or if they already live here, they can stay living here. Because if you're renting, your rent's probably gone up recently in the past couple years. And we want to make sure that you have the ability to stay living here in Griffin, the place that a lot of people have lived their whole life, and now they don't know where they're going to go.
Could you speak more on what your thoughts are on protecting the environment and how Griffin can assist in overall helping the environment globally?
Globally, like, so every city has their own part to play when it comes to the global crisis we're having right now with climate change. But a big part of that everywhere can help is soil quality. And that's one thing that I care about a lot, is protecting our soil. And so one thing I want to do that I think will help the environment in a lot of ways by just being there and overseeing all the things that we do in Griffin is starting a soil quality and ecological diversity committee. And what that will do is any new development that happens in Griffin and the operations we already have here, they will be able to see and make reports on exactly how that impacts the environment. And then they can make recommendations about what to do about that. And how the soil helps with climate change is that it's a big part of the carbon cycle. When carbon is put into the air, grass and other small fauna, or flora, my bad, other small plants suck the carbon in, and then in the root systems there's fungus called mycelium that holds it into the soil and puts it back into the ground where it's supposed to be. Carbon cycle, it goes out of plants and then back in and stays in the ground. When you have a lack of ecological diversity, like a lot of the same species, you don't get that. Or because the mycelium starts to die in the soil, or if you just have bad soil quality in general from pollution or deforestation, that's not going to allow for carbon to stay in the soil. So when we improve that, we're directly helping pull carbon out of the air and keep the carbon cycle going how it should naturally. But also that's going to help people such as farmers in the area, improving soil quality and making sure that we can grow crops, as well as just beautifying the place anyways. Because like with the trees that we have, say downtown or anywhere, a lot of times developers will plant trees that are all the same gender because that's going to stop new trees from sprouting up. But what that does is it causes a pollen problem. When you don't have pollen going to another gender of the same species of tree, it causes an overpollination problem. And in Griffin, we already have that because of where we're situated in Georgia. We're in we're in the pollen belt. And so pollen already comes into our city. And so if you have problems like asthma or anything like that, you're going to have a harder time breathing during pollen season. And we can actually help mitigate that by making sure that the trees we plant have both male and female trees instead of all the same gender, because they just put out pollen and it has nowhere to go. And that's an issue a lot of cities have, because to save on cost and to save on having to worry about trees popping up in different places, developers won't plant that. And that's something that we'd want to stop ahead of time, and we'd know about with the Soil Quality Committee. And of course, there's other ways I'd want to help the environment too, of course, like investing in renewable energies, getting contracts with solar panel companies so that businesses can get solar panels for cheap. And of course, your houses can as well, but mainly focusing on businesses that stay open all the time and use so much power. If we get them solar panels for cheap, it will actually help them in the long term on cost, and of course, help reduce our fossil fuel intake.
Zachary, my name is Dr. Sid Chapman, and I have 33 years as experience as a public educator. And in that time, I've been in the classroom, president of the Georgia Association of Educators, all over, worked with NEA. And one of the things that I've noticed as a trend over the last, I guess, 15 years, is moving more toward a liberal arts education, or even longer. They're trying to, all the schools trying to get everybody to go to college. And instead of taking advantage, we have a wonderful technical college here that offers everything from certificates to 2-year degrees and all of that. And then the University of Georgia has an agricultural system here. So I'm just wondering, do you see yourself, what are your plans for education? Do you want to help, not stop people from having a liberal arts education, or pursue that, of course, but maybe put in a little more interest on job-related vocational technical education, or what are your thoughts on it?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually went to Southern Crescent and had that experience, and it's a great school, and I feel like that could benefit a lot of people, because you're right, a lot of times you're pushed to go to college when that's not the right path for everybody. Obviously, we want everybody to be able to, but a lot of people get pushed into college and go into debt when that's not what they wanted to do. And you could go to a cheaper school, not go into as much debt, or not go into debt at all, get your degree, have a great job right off the bat, the job that you want right off the bat. We have that here in Griffin. And that's something I don't think people talk about enough. Southern Crescent has a great film program. They have great medical programs. Southern Crescent is a great mechanical program too. They have a lot of great programs that you can get through in 2 years for not that high of tuition. And then also at UGA, like you pointed out, fantastic agricultural program. A lot of great agricultural scientists come out of UGA, but then they move. They leave Griffin. We need to keep them here, and that's one thing that actually investing in environmental protection would be able to do, is keeping those scientists here in Griffin, since they're studying here anyway. But then also what I plan on doing for education, of course, I'm running for the City Commission, not the Board of Education, so there's limitations there, but I definitely want to work closely with the Board of Education and make sure they're funded. Make sure that the city, if they need extra funding, can help those schools, and maybe change some policies within the schools, like if we could give them metal detectors. I think that's very important to the school system right now, with so much worry about gun violence and how many undocumented guns, especially that young people have, and how unregulated we have with mental health. There's so much mental health issues that people have in Griffin that aren't getting addressed because they don't know where to go, or they don't have the money to have that addressed. And I think school is a place where you should feel safe in that regard, and it's something that, at least when I was going to school, I didn't feel great about. And one thing that would help is, of course, making sure we keep guns out of school, which I believe metal detectors work well for that, of course. And also investing in better counseling. We want to make sure that counselors have training available to them, which that's something the city could do, is doing a program for counselors, because it would be separate from the school. Just encourage counselors to go to different trainings on things like mental health, because we need specific mental health counselors, and also learn about different perspectives in general, so that when you when a student needs help and goes to you, you're not caught off guard as a counselor, and you know how to help the student. And I just also want to make sure that, of course, counselors and teachers are paid. So I definitely want to work very close with the Board of Education to make sure everything is running to the best of its ability here in Griffin. Thank you. Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you all for coming out. It was great to have you here. And of course, you're welcome to more food in the bar. I love golden crab myself. I think the food's great here. I've got yard signs over here. And I'll just touch on a few more platform positions of mine, just because I want to make sure that you all know about these things. Public transportation is something that we can do in Griffin. It's something that actually we used to have a bus route here in Griffin, and that's something that will help people get to work, save money, not have to use their car. A lot of people don't drive, don't have a car, and that would help them as well. It also helps the environment because you keep cars off the road. Even if these are buses that burn fossil fuel, it still saves on emissions by keeping people off the road. So that's just something I wanted to make sure to put out there that we do. I also mentioned decriminalizing marijuana. That's past due. It's already legal. These restrictions that are still in place are just used to discriminate against people. And that's something we want to be able to just end, even if it's just systematic. A lot of times it's not on purpose per se, it's more systematic, and that's just one of those things we can eliminate, help keep people out of prison for no good reason. Because that's what it is when you get arrested with marijuana, is you get hit with a fine, or you go to prison sometimes, depending on how much you have, for something that medically some people need. And that's why we sell medical marijuana cards and things like that, and that's why it is legal. So I just want to make sure that that's put all the way through so that people aren't arrested for no reason here. So, thank you all for coming out again. Make sure, tell everybody to vote. The election, of course, is November 2nd. Early voting's already started. It's every day, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., except on Saturday and Sundays. The last Saturday voting was yesterday. So it's just Monday to Friday, and then the election day is on the 2nd of November. Do we have any questions on the live chat?